Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
Let's start off with the Jayden Reed thing. This almost feels to me, and I've gone back and forth on this in my mind. And again, I'm one of those, like, my mind works like, okay, it always asks the question, why? Why does somebody do this? Why does somebody say this? Why did this happen? Or what could be the reason for this? It's like, why and what? I always try to figure it out, knowing that I'll never know probably the truthful answer in instances like this. And in the Jayden Reed scenario, it's just weird. It's just really weird that Adam Schefter, maybe an accumulation of information, would just kind of randomly post that. And it was just kind of a little bit of a head scratcher. Like Rob Domosky said, interesting that such a meeting would even be necessary. But perhaps Reed wanted clarity, which, okay, maybe that's a possible scenario. There's no question that's a possible scenario. But the guy's also just entering his third year. Okay, he's still a young receiver in this thing. So I mean, it's not like it's a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, whatever type of scenario where, or even entering his final year where he's due for a huge payday, for crying out loud. He's wrapped up his second year. So, and again, of all the receivers on the roster, if there was one that had probably the least amount to worry about, Green Bay drafted a couple wideouts is Jayden Reed. You can make the case for Romeo. Okay, entering his final year. Got some some off the field stuff that happened last year where he got suspended. Then you look at the concussion history. Obviously with Christian Watson. Dotavian Wicks dealing with some drops last year, but wasn't as high of a draft pick as Jayden Reed. So it's kind of a head scratcher in that department. This is why I kind of keep going back, and it sounds like that maybe this is a new agent for Jayden Reed that maybe just recently hired Drew Rosenhaus. And part of me is just wondering now, is this Drew Rosenhaus and Jayden Reed's representation, kind of doing a little PR stunt? Kind of like going out there and maybe making a good first impression, if you know what I'm getting at, and just trying to maybe set the tone right away, like, hey, Reed's still going to be a dude. He's still the number one guy in Green Bay, and kind of getting some early setting the bar, setting the tone for some future contract negotiations. You know what I mean? Like just giving out some public positive PR sort of thing. It just, the more I think about it, and the more I've gone back and forth on this thing, it feels like this is straight up from an agent perspective. I'm sure Goody and Rosenhaus met, especially if Rosenhaus has been recently hired or is a new agent for Jayden Reed. I'm sure they recently, talked and met and guarantee you Rosenhaus has more clients that play for the Packers too. So it might not have just been a straight up meeting or whatever about Jayden Reed. It could have been about a boatload of topics, or it could have easily just been a single mention. And because it's Rosenhaus and because you're trying to get some positive PR out there, you take something so small and something that's probably not even newsworthy, but you make it newsworthy by going to Schefter or any NFL analyst or insider and saying, hey, can you throw this out there? Because we know a lot of the information and a lot of the sources from these insiders are from agents, especially when it comes to that free agency opening day. when you've got all of those reporters all of a sudden, breaking contracts, so-and-so is signed with who, and you're like, how the heck? How do they get it so quick? Pay attention to how they phrase a lot of those tweets, too, or those posts, especially when it's free agent date. Right at the end, what do they always say for a lot of them? Contract negotiated by so-and-so, so-and-so. Deal done by so-and-so and so-and-so. Oh, you got the info from the agents. That's what it was. So I just feel like, initially when you first read it, it's kind of interesting to see how it's worded, because it gives the impression that maybe Jayden Reed wasn't happy. But then I think take a quick step back, and I'm guilty of this too. Like the first time I read, I'm like, why does Jayden Reed have any issue of being unhappy or being confused about his role? And I think if take a step back, you kind of look at it again, I'm like, I think this is more of an agent thing, and just kind of setting the tone, maybe for some future negotiations. Because remember, Jayden Reed's not a first-year or a first-round draft pick, so second-round pick, 4-year contract. He's entering his third year. Can probably guess that after this year, or at some point this year, maybe in the middle of the season, they're probably going to work on a contract extension. Probably going to get that thing done. Because let's be real, of the current wide receivers on this roster that are not rookies, so Golden and Savion Williams, I think if you were to power rank them in terms of who's likely to get an extension at this point, it's probably Jayden Reed. So the more I think about it, the more I've gone back and forth on this. This just feels like a straight up, because it was so random, this just feels like a straight up agent post PR sort of thing. So again, I'm guilty of it. Like initially, first reactions are like, oh crap, what's going on now? Or do we got more drama going on here? I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know if I'm there. This just speaks of a agent type of move. So, but on the flip side, with the Jenkins one, there might be something there. There might be a little something there. Because I believe it was last week, Jason Wilde on his show, Wilde and Tausch, kind of made a little bit of a note or a little bit of a comment about there might be something going on with Jenkins. And I was like, okay, I don't know. And then you have this incident at an establishment, and then he's not with the team right now for workouts. And okay, some veterans don't show up and such. But then you get Steno's comments, Adam Stenovich's comments about him not being there, and he's not here. Let me bring up the exact quote. Adam Stenovich, this was from, again, Rob Demoski. Adam Stenovich said, based on the conversations he's had with Elgton Jenkins about moving to center, quote, I think he's open to it. Not a very good or reassuring comment when you sit there and say, I think he's open to it. I think. It's not a more definite, I know he's open to it. I know he's good with it. He's excited about it. It's, I think. It's like, oh, okay. And then, as Rob says, so that's not the reason Jenkins isn't here for off-season workouts? Question. Steno says he's not here for reasons other than that. Maybe it's related to the incident at that establishment. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. So there's a little bit of smoke. Question is just how much of a flame is there? There's a little bit of smoke, but how big are those flames? That, to me, between Reed and Jenkins, the Jenkins one has a little bit more there. I don't know if he's unhappy about playing center. Would he rather play guard at this point? Remember, he's got a contract. He's getting paid as one of the highest paid guards out there. So maybe he's just not wanting to play. I don't want to throw out possible, wrong rumors or anything like that, but it's interesting because the highest paid center right now, according to Spot Track, is Creed Humphrey. So let me just kind of give some numbers here, compare it here a little bit, shall we? Just to see what Elgton Jenkins is getting paid compared to maybe the highest paid center in the NFL right now. So Elgton Jenkins. Okay, let's do a little bit of a refresher on his contract according to Spot Track. So he originally signed a 4-year, $68 million deal. This year, he is making in base salary $11.7 million. That prorated signing bonus of $4.8. Next year, it jumps up to $18.5 million. Okay? So, Creed Humphrey, let's bring up his contract. Now, it's not going to be all on, same timeline or length than that either. So, it's going to be a little bit different. But Creed Humphrey, for instance, he signed a 4-year, $72 million deal. Now, he signed this just recently, too. So, we know values go up, right? They go up every year, so it's not that far off. It really isn't. And when you look at it, in 2025 cash terms, Elton's going to get $12.8 million. This year, Creed Humphrey's going to get $7.2 million. So I don't know if it's a money thing, to be honest with you. I struggle to see where this is potentially a money thing with Elgton Jenkins, because he's still getting paid pretty handsomely right now, even with moving from guard to center. So I don't think it's a money thing. Is it just a play thing? But he's played center in a pinch, and he's gotten reps at center. So I don't know. That's kind of weird too. Maybe he's just not comfortable playing center. But that's something we got to watch and maybe kind of take a gander at. Some other comments, though, from the coordinators yesterday. Let's start off with Rich Bisaccia. Said that he thinks Keyshawn Nixon is a little bit more, he's a little bit more open to being a returner again this year. He'll be in the mix, obviously, with McCole Hardman over there and Williams. Maybe that kind of takes Nixon out of there, but Bisaccia did say yesterday that he believes Nixon will still be in the mix. When he was asked about his decision to return for another season with the Packers, he kind of mentioned that he felt like he's failed Matt LaFleur at times. He brought up special teams issues in the playoff loss to San Francisco, Philly, the botched coverage against Chicago and such. So, he felt, apparently, just to kind of summarize, felt like he's failed at times, and he owes it to Matt LaFleur to do a better job and wants to kind of, come back maybe a little bit with a chip on his shoulder. Jeff Hafley, also chatting a little bit with the media, said the thing that he liked the most about his first season was how hard, according to Rob Demoski, how hard and physical his unit played at the end of the season. Quote, "I thought we came alive. I thought we played harder than our opponent. The test is now to get back to where you left off as fast as possible." He was singing the praises of Edgerrin Cooper this offseason, saying he's gotten bigger. He said when you see him now, he looks different. He's bigger. He's pushing 240 pounds. To put it in perspective, he was about 229 last year. And when he was asked about Jair Alexander and what it would mean if something is worked out, Hafley taking the approach, I think, same page out of the Matt LaFleur book, not really going into a deep dive, saying, quote, "I think we'll leave that up to see what happens rather than talk in any hypotheticals." Outside of Stanovich's comments about Elgton Jenkins, he said the coaches have talked this offseason about how to get Tucker Kraft more involved and trying to get him the ball more as well. So those were just some of the few comments that kind of, probably were the biggest takeaways from a presser that you can get from coordinators at the beginning of May. But yesterday, that all wasn't the Packers news. The only Packers news to come out. We've got our first game on the dockets for the schedule. It was announced yesterday that the Packers will be traveling to Chicago, Week 16, December 20th, for a Saturday game to take on the Bears. So, we were talking about it the other day. What do you look at when it comes to schedule returns? Are there certain games and such? And, well, a lot of them, at least for me, is division games. And where do you go, and when do these division teams come to your town? My guess would be, does that mean that Chicago is going to be coming to Green Bay a little bit earlier in the season? Which, whatever. I'd rather have Detroit and Minnesota come to Green Bay later on in the season. So if the trade-off is that we go to Chicago late in the season, while it could be a lot windier late in the season over there and make things a little bit more difficult for Green Bay, if the trade-off means getting Detroit and Minnesota to come to Green Bay later on, I'm fine with that trade. But, with the announcement that it came down yesterday that Green Bay and Chicago would be playing Saturday before Christmas, the 20th, it kind of got people thinking, if the NFL follows the formula that they had last year, there's a good chance then that Green Bay would play on Christmas Day, and those would be on Netflix. We were talking about it now with schedule releases. That's a factor that a lot of people have to take into consideration now, too, is like, okay, which games are where, so I know if I have to sign up for something, it's not just on Fox and CBS or NBC or ESPN anymore. It's all these other different streaming platforms, so I got to figure out if I'm going to get a free trial, or I got to go to somebody's house or find somewhere to watch it, or sign up for a month or whatever. So there was that thought. It's like, oh, okay, so does this mean that Green Bay is going to play on Christmas on Netflix? Possibly still could happen, but the formula last year was the 4 teams that played right before Christmas, remember those Saturday games? All 4 played on Christmas. That's not necessarily the case so far. So far. Key phrase there, so far, because it was also announced that Chiefs and Broncos are playing on Christmas Day. So we'll see if maybe that gets announced today. Is that today? I think it's today the Netflix one gets announced. Could be wrong, but I know there's going to be a couple more games announced on the schedule for today. But the full schedule will get released on Wednesday, so we'll note all over there. But so we got one. It's not a home game, so you still can't necessarily plan out your visits to Green Bay and such. But what do you make of the Elgton Jenkins and the Jayden Reed, type of stuff that came out yesterday for Green Bay? What do you make of it? To kind of wrap it up for me, I guess I'm not too worried about the Jayden Reed thing. It's just weird, but the way it was presented and the way that it was thrown out there, it just screams of a PR type of stunt from a new agent, and an agent by the name of Drew Rosenhaus. It just that to me is what kind of stands out. So I'm not too worried about that. I hope. The Elgton one's a little bit different. That one is like, okay, I think there's a little bit of smoke there. It's just the biggest question is, how big is that flame? And can it be contained so it doesn't spread or get bigger? Breaking news. We got another Packer game that was announced. November 10th, Eagles, Packers, Monday Night Football. There you go. So, Packers welcoming the defending Super Bowl champs. That was just announced a few seconds ago. We got another Packer game announced for the schedule. Monday night, November 10th. Monday night, November 10th. Eagles visiting the Packers. So, put that on your calendar right now. If you've got season tickets or plenty, or you want to go to that game, November 10th. It's a Monday night. So, all right, we got a couple games that we already know. We know December 20th, Saturday, Packers visiting Chicago, and now Eagles visiting the Packers November 10th. Gosh, I wonder, we talked about it yesterday too. It's like, are the Packers actually going to open up at home for the first time since 2018? Think about that. Matt LaFleur has not opened up at home, had a season opener at home during his tenure as head coach. Think about that. That hasn't happened before for him. Gosh, I wonder if this is finally going to be the year. So, Week 10, that is officially the Week 10 game, in case you're wondering. So we know the Week 10 game, and we know the Week 16 game for the green and gold. I think tomorrow morning what I'll try to do is I might try to mock the schedule. Might try to figure out how many we can get. Got 2 already on there, but all right. So,